My brothers and sisters, there comes a moment in every person's life, a quiet, almost imperceptible pause in the rhythm of your existence, when you feel utterly lost. You wake up one morning, perhaps with the sun streaming through your window, and yet the light does not reach you. It passes through as though you are invisible to your own life. You feel a hollow space within, an echo of your own heartbeat that seems to ask questions you cannot answer. You may try to ignore it, filling your days with tasks, conversations, responsibilities, distractions, yet the feeling persists. It is not merely confusion, it is not merely fatigue. It is a deeper, more insistent pull, a sensation that you have stepped away from something essential, something that once gave your life meaning, and you are not sure how to return. This sense of being lost can manifest in countless ways. For some, it is a loss of direction, a feeling that no matter what path they take, they are moving without purpose. For others, it is a loss of connection, a sense that the people around them, though familiar, no longer resonate with who they truly are. For many, it is a loss of self, a disquieting uncertainty about who they have become, who they were meant to be, and who they still hope to be. You may feel trapped between the person you were and the person you are becoming, and the tension between these two selves creates an invisible weight, pressing on your chest, slowing your steps and clouding your mind. Feeling lost is not an anomaly, it is a human condition. Every generation, every culture, every individual experiences it in some form. Yet, despite its universality, it is profoundly isolating. You may look around and see others who appear to navigate life effortlessly, who seem to know their place in the world, and it deepens the sense of inadequacy or confusion. You may wonder if there is something wrong with you, if your experience of disorientation is a sign of failure. But the truth is quite different. Feeling lost is not a mark of weakness. It is a signal from the deepest part of your being that demands attention. It is the mind and soul's way of telling you that it is time to pause, to reflect, and to seek a path that is authentic to your own life, not one imposed by expectation, routine, or fear. One of the reasons we feel lost is because we have become strangers to ourselves. We live in a world that constantly demands our attention, our productivity, our compliance with norms, and yet it rarely encourages us to look inward. From a young age, we are taught to perform, to achieve, to succeed according to certain standards. But seldom are we guided to cultivate self-awareness, to question who we are, and to explore the terrain of our own hearts. As a result, and we grow older carrying roles that may no longer reflect our truth. We wear masks that we do not remember choosing, and we navigate spaces that feel familiar but foreign. The lost feeling arises when the internal dissonance, the gap between the life we are living and the life we are meant to live, becomes too loud to ignore. Another reason we feel lost is fear. Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of change. Fear has a way of shrinking the soul, of narrowing the possibilities we allow ourselves to imagine. It convinces us that stability is safety, that certainty is happiness, that following the prescribed path will guarantee fulfillment. And yet, life rarely rewards blind conformity. The lost feeling often comes when fear has kept us from exploring, from taking risks, from listening to the voice inside us that whispers, "There is more here for you, but you must seek it." It is a reminder that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward in spite of it. Loneliness, too, is a companion of being lost. When you feel disconnected from others, when your relationships feel shallow or strained, or when you are surrounded by people yet feel unseen, it can amplify the sense of disorientation. Yet loneliness is also an opportunity, a space in which the soul can speak more clearly. When the noise of external expectations is quieted, when you are alone with your thoughts, you are forced to confront the questions you might otherwise avoid. Who am I? What do I value? What gives my life meaning? These are difficult questions, but they are essential. Feeling lost is the universe inviting you into reflection, an initiation into the deeper understanding of your own self. Many people turn to external solutions to navigate this lostness. They seek advice, mentors, books, or experiences that promise clarity. While guidance can help, the ultimate solution must be internal. Feeling lost cannot be solved by someone else. It can only be embraced and understood by you. It requires honesty, patience, and the willingness to sit with discomfort. It requires accepting that answers may not come quickly, that the path may be winding, that the journey itself is the teacher. Often, those who appear to have clarity and direction have, in fact, traversed periods of deep confusion and emerged on the other side through persistence, reflection, and courage. It is also important to recognize that feeling lost is not permanent. It is a season, not a sentence. The sensation may be disorienting and painful, but it is a precursor to growth. Just as the night is darkest before the dawn, the period of uncertainty often precedes a profound realignment with purpose and meaning. When you are lost, you are being asked to explore, to examine the choices that have led you here, and to consider what you truly desire. You are being invited to peel away the layers of expectation, distraction, and fear that have obscured your path. The process of emerging from being lost requires self-compassion. Many people respond to lostness with frustration, self-criticism, or anxiety. They see it as a failure rather than a signal. Yet, self-compassion is the compass that allows you to navigate this terrain. It encourages you to approach yourself gently and to honor your emotions and to recognize that the journey toward clarity is a natural part of life. By treating yourself with kindness rather than judgment, you create the space for insight and growth to flourish. Finally, the feeling of being lost is intimately tied to your relationship with meaning. When life feels fragmented or directionless, it is often because you have lost sight of what truly matters to you. Rediscovering your sense of meaning is not about achieving external markers of success. It is about aligning your actions, thoughts, and intentions with the values and passions that resonate most deeply within you. It is about asking with courage and honesty what brings your heart to life, what fuels your spirit, and what legacy you hope to leave. When you reconnect with meaning, the fog of lostness begins to lift, and the path ahead becomes clearer, not because it is easy, but because it is true. Being lost, in essence, is an invitation. It is the universe speaking in whispers and echoes, urging you to pay attention, to awaken, to step into a fuller and more authentic version of yourself. It is a challenging, often uncomfortable journey, but one that ultimately leads to self-discovery, purpose, and profound resilience. The feeling of being lost is not something to escape from, but something to move through. It asks you to confront your fears, your illusions, and your distractions, to embrace solitude and to seek meaning. And in that seeking, in that willingness to explore the unknown within yourself, you begin to find the compass that will guide you home, not to a physical location, but to the life you were meant to live. There is a subtle, almost imperceptible drift that occurs when you begin to disconnect from yourself. At first, it is so quiet that you may hardly notice it, a faint whisper in your mind, a mild unease that lingers at the edge of your consciousness. You may dismiss it as stress, as fatigue, as a temporary lapse, yet deep inside, your soul is sending signals that you are moving away from the center of who you truly are. Disconnection from the self is not an immediate, dramatic event. It is gradual, like a river slowly carving a canyon, or a tree whose roots gradually lose contact with the soil that nurtures it. Recognizing this disconnection requires attentiveness, courage, and the willingness to look honestly at your life. One of the clearest signs of disconnection is a persistent sense of emptiness. You may go through the motions of life, attending to responsibilities, fulfilling obligations, interacting with friends and family, yet there is a hollow quality to your experience. Moments that once brought joy feel muted. Achievements that once sparked pride now feel distant and unfulfilling. Even activities you once loved may seem foreign, as if the spark that connected you to them has dimmed. This emptiness is not a mere absence of pleasure. It is a signal that the life you are living may be misaligned with the deepest truths of your being. It is a whisper from your inner self, asking you to pause, to reflect, and to consider what has been lost in the process of conformity, habit, or distraction. Another sign is a sense of alienation from your own emotions. When you feel disconnected from yourself, your emotions can become confusing, overwhelming, or muted. You may find yourself reacting to situations without understanding why, or feeling numb in moments that should stir you deeply. Emotional dissonance is a warning that your inner world and your outer life are out of sync. You may have learned to suppress certain feelings in order to fit into roles expected of you or to avoid discomfort. Yet in doing so, You lose the natural guidance that your emotions provide. Emotions are not random. They are signals guiding you toward alignment with your values, your needs, and your true path. Disconnection from these signals is a sign that you have drifted from your authentic self. A third sign is the experience of constant distraction. When you are out of touch with yourself, you may feel compelled to fill every moment with activity, social media, television, work, busy schedules, anything to avoid the silence in which self-awareness thrives. Distraction becomes a defense mechanism, a way to keep from facing uncomfortable questions. Who am I really? What do I want? What is meaningful to me? In the absence of silence, the inner voice that could guide you is drowned out by noise. Recognizing your need for stillness and your tendency to avoid it is a critical step toward reconnecting with yourself. Disconnection often hides behind busyness, and reclaiming quiet space is the first step in hearing the whispers of your own soul. You may also notice a recurring feeling of restlessness or dissatisfaction. No matter what you do, no matter what goals you achieve, there is a lingering sense that something is missing. This dissatisfaction is not a failure of circumstance, but a reflection of internal misalignment. When you are disconnected from yourself, you chase external markers of success, approval, money, status, believing that they will bring fulfillment, yet the fulfillment you seek is internal and it cannot be found outside. Restlessness is the body and mind's way of signaling that the nourishment you seek must come from within through a reconnection with your true self. Another sign is the tendency to conform excessively to the expectations of others. When disconnected, you may find yourself saying yes when you want to say no, following paths that feel prescribed rather than chosen, or adopting beliefs and behaviors that do not resonate with your authentic values. People often confuse this compliance with social grace, politeness, or ambition, yet deep inside, it erodes the self. The more you live according to external scripts, the further you drift from your own voice. Recognizing this pattern is essential. It requires courage to step away from the expectations of family, society, or peers, and to explore what truly matters to you. Physical signs of disconnection can also emerge. You may experience fatigue, frequent illness, or a general sense of heaviness in the body. These are often interpreted as purely physical conditions, yet the body is intimately linked with the psyche. When your mental and emotional states are misaligned, the body carries the weight. The tension, pain, or lack of vitality you feel may be a manifestation of the disconnection between your inner life and your external existence. Listening to the body and recognizing these signals as messages rather than annoyances is part of reconnecting with yourself. Spiritual signs of disconnection may also appear. You may feel adrift in your beliefs, disconnected from practices that once grounded you, or uncertain about the purpose of your life. This spiritual disorientation is often intertwined with emotional and psychological disconnection. It reflects the need to seek meaning beyond the material and the immediate, to explore the dimensions of your existence that cannot be measured or quantified. Recognizing spiritual disconnection is an invitation to reconnect with your sense of purpose, values, and the larger narrative of your life. The process of recognizing disconnection is not passive. It requires active introspection. It requires asking difficult questions. Where have I lost touch with myself? Which parts of my life feel inauthentic? What do I fear discovering if I truly look inward? These questions can be uncomfortable, even painful, because they may reveal choices, habits, or relationships that no longer serve your growth. Yet facing these truths is essential. Disconnection thrives in avoidance. Self-awareness thrives in courageous reflection. The moment you begin to notice these signs, you plant the seeds for realignment, growth, and transformation. Recognizing disconnection also requires patience. Often the signs are subtle and their origins are complex. You may feel frustrated that clarity does not come immediately, or that reconnecting with yourself seems elusive. Yet patience is essential. Self-reconnection is not an instant process, it is a gradual unfolding. Like a plant that takes time to grow roots deep into the soil, your understanding of yourself develops slowly through observation, reflection, and experience. Each moment of awareness, no matter how small, is a step toward regaining your center. Awareness of disconnection should be accompanied by curiosity rather than judgment. Many people respond to the realization that they are out of touch with themselves, with guilt, shame, or self-criticism. They blame themselves for the drift, believing that they should have known better or done better. Yet this perspective only deepens the sense of alienation. Curiosity, on the other hand, opens the door to exploration. It encourages questions like, what parts of me have been neglected? What desires or passions have I silenced? What choices can I make today to honor my authentic self? Approaching disconnection with curiosity transforms it from a problem into an opportunity, a chance to learn, grow, and realign. Connection to yourself also involves reclaiming your voice. Many people lose touch with themselves because they have stopped listening to their inner guidance. The inner voice, the one that speaks in quiet clarity about your values, desires, and boundaries, is often drowned out by external noise. Reconnecting requires practices that amplify that voice: journaling, meditation, solitude, or creative expression. These practices create space for self-reflection, allowing the inner voice to be heard clearly. Listening to yourself is not selfish, it is essential. Your life can only flourish when guided by the wisdom that resides within you. Another aspect of recognizing disconnection is examining your relationships. The people around you often reflect your own alignment with self. Toxic, superficial, or draining relationships can amplify disconnection, while supportive, authentic connections can nurture it. Pay attention to how relationships make you feel. Do they energize you or deplete you? Do they encourage your authenticity or demand conformity? Recognizing disconnection is not just an internal journey, it is relational as well. By surrounding yourself with those who honor your true self, you create an environment conducive to reconnection. Ultimately, recognizing the signs of disconnection is the first step in a journey toward authenticity. It is an acknowledgement that something vital has been neglected, that the life you are living may not fully reflect who you are. This recognition is powerful because it transforms discomfort into awareness and awareness into action. It is the moment when the whisper of unease becomes a guide, pointing you toward the path of reconnection. Purpose and alignment. Being out of touch with yourself is not a permanent condition. Awareness is the beginning of transformation. Each step you take to recognize your disconnection brings you closer to the self you were meant to honor, the life you were meant to live, and the fulfillment that comes from authenticity. The journey requires courage, patience, and reflection, but it is a journey worth taking. The signs of disconnection are not threats, they are invitations. They are reminders that life is richer, deeper, and more meaningful when you are truly connected to yourself, when your choices reflect your values, and when your actions resonate with the essence of who you are. The process of reconnecting begins with recognition, continues with reflection, and unfolds through intentional action. By paying attention to the subtle signals, the emptiness, emotional dissonance, distraction, restlessness, conformity, physical tension, spiritual uncertainty, and relational dynamics, you cultivate the awareness needed to restore harmony between your inner and outer worlds. Each moment of clarity strengthens your connection to yourself, allowing you to live with greater authenticity, purpose, and joy. There is a quiet trap that many of us fall into without realizing it, a subtle illusion that convinces us that we are moving forward, that we are making progress, that our lives are on the right path. It feels safe, even respectable. We follow routines, adhere to expectations, pursue goals, and check boxes. On the surface, everything seems orderly, measured, and productive. And yet, beneath this sense of outward alignment, there is a growing unease, a whisper in the soul that speaks of stagnation, compromise, and missed potential. That whisper is often the voice of truth. The voice that reveals that what we perceive as being on track is sometimes nothing more than a carefully maintained illusion, an illusion nurtured by fear and the comfort of familiar habits. Fear is one of the most powerful forces in human life. It is essential for survival, yet when left unchecked, it shapes our decisions in ways that limit growth, stifle creativity, and prevent authentic living. Fear convinces us to settle, to follow prescribed paths, to avoid the unknown, and to cling to what is familiar. It disguises itself in rational justifications. This is practical. This is safe. This is what everyone expects of me. Fear is rarely dramatic. It whispers. It seduces us into believing that stability equals progress, that predictability equals success, and that avoiding risk equals wisdom. And in that whisper, it creates a profound illusion that we are on the right track when, in fact, we are circling in a confined space, constrained by our own apprehensions. Comfort zones are intimately connected to fear. They are the spaces in life where we feel secure, competent, and predictable. Within comfort zones, we know what to expect. There is no sudden threat, no unpredictable challenge, no emotional turbulence. On the surface, comfort zones offer reassurance, yet they are also silent prisons. They limit exploration, innovation, and personal growth. Life within a comfort zone may feel stable and even productive, yet it is often devoid of the experiences that awaken the soul, deepen understanding, and expand the capacity for joy and fulfillment. The irony is that the very thing we associate with being safe often keeps us stagnant, disconnected, and unfulfilled. One of the key reasons people mistake comfort for progress is the external validation it brings. When you stay within familiar boundaries, the world sees you as competent, responsible, and steady. Colleagues, friends, and family may praise your diligence, your consistency, or your adherence to convention. Yet external validation is not an accurate measure of alignment with your true self. It is possible to receive recognition while drifting away from your passions, values, and purpose. The illusion of being on track is often reinforced by social approval. We are encouraged to stay the course, to maintain appearances, to conform to societal measures of achievement, and in doing so, we mistake this reinforcement for genuine fulfillment. Fear and comfort zones also work together to suppress curiosity and imagination. When we cling to what is familiar, we avoid the questions that could disrupt our routines. What do I truly desire? What am I capable of achieving beyond my current limitations? What would life look like if I acted according to my deepest values rather than external expectations? These questions, when asked honestly, can feel threatening, and fear encourages us to ignore them. It whispers that change is risky, that uncertainty is dangerous, that satisfaction lies in the familiar. And so curiosity is muted, imagination is constrained, and the illusion of being on track solidifies. A related aspect of this illusion is the habit of comparing your path to that of others. We often look around at peers, colleagues, or friends and judge our progress in relation to theirs. Fear convinces us that if we deviate, we will fall behind, fail, or be judged. Comfort zones offer the reassurance of alignment. If everyone else is doing this, it must be correct. Yet this comparative mindset obscures the truth that being on track is not universal, it is deeply personal. True alignment cannot be measured against someone else's life. It can only be measured against your own values, passions, and aspirations. The more we rely on comparison, the more we allow fear and conformity to dictate our decisions, and the further we drift from authenticity. Another way fear manifests is through procrastination disguised as preparation. We convince ourselves that we need more information and more planning, more readiness before taking the next step. Yet this preparation can become endless, and in that endlessness, fear maintains control. Comfort zones provide a buffer against risk by offering a sense of readiness that may never culminate in action. We stay on track in theory, but fail to move toward meaningful progress. The illusion is convincing you feel organized, deliberate, responsible. But the reality is that growth is postponed and opportunity slips by unnoticed. Fear and comfort zones also distort our perception of time. We measure life in increments, tracking years, promotions, milestones, and tangible outcomes, yet we often ignore whether these markers align with who we truly are. We become adept at constructing narratives of progress. I have a stable job, I am saving money, I am following the expected path. These narratives feel reassuring, yet they are stories rather than reflections of authenticity. Time passes, and while we appear to move forward, we may remain trapped within invisible boundaries, never stretching toward the challenges that cultivate resilience, creativity, and fulfillment. Breaking free from fear and comfort zones requires awareness first. You cannot escape what you do not recognize. Begin by examining your motivations. Are your choices driven by curiosity, growth, and genuine desire, or by avoidance, fear, and habit? Are you taking action because it excites you or because it feels safe and socially acceptable? Awareness is the first step because it illuminates the mechanisms that create the illusion of being on track. It allows you to discern between actions that cultivate alignment and those that merely maintain appearances. Courage is the next essential component. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means acting despite fear. It is moving toward uncertainty, taking risks, and confronting discomfort in the service of growth. Courage is what allows you to step beyond comfort zones, to experiment with new possibilities, and to pursue goals that resonate with your deepest self. Courage transforms fear from an obstacle into a guide. It signals the areas of your life where growth is possible, where exploration is required, where authenticity can flourish. Patience and persistence are also required. Breaking free from the illusion of being on track is rarely instantaneous. Habits, beliefs, and routines are deeply ingrained. Comfort zones feel like home because they are familiar, predictable, and psychologically safe. It takes time to dismantle these patterns, to confront fear, and to practice new ways of living. Each small step matters. Trying a new approach, taking a risk in alignment with your values, or pausing to reflect on whether your actions are authentic. Gradually, with consistent effort, the illusion fades and clarity emerges. Support and community can play a vital role. Surrounding yourself with people who encourage exploration, authenticity, and courage helps counterbalance the societal pressures that reinforce fear and comfort zones. Seek mentors, friends, or communities that celebrate curiosity, experimentation, and growth. These connections provide both guidance and encouragement, reminding you that stepping beyond fear is not only possible but essential. Another aspect of overcoming this illusion is embracing failure as a teacher. Fear often keeps us from taking action because we are terrified of failing. Comfort zones reassure us that inaction is safe, that mistakes are avoidable, that security is maintained. Yet true progress and authenticity emerge through trial, error, and adaptation. Failure is not evidence of inadequacy, it is evidence of engagement, experimentation, and growth. By reframing failure as a necessary part of the journey, fear loses its power and comfort zones begin to dissolve. Reflection is a critical tool. Regularly ask yourself, am I following this path because it aligns with my purpose or because it feels safe? Am I avoiding a risk that could lead to growth? Am I measuring progress by external standards or by my own values? Reflection allows you to pause, evaluate, and course correct. It turns life from a series of automated routines into a conscious practice, one in which you remain accountable to yourself and your authentic path. Understanding that fear and comfort zones create the illusion of being on track also involves recognizing the consequences of ignoring this truth. Without intervention, life may appear orderly, yet a persistent sense of dissatisfaction, stagnation, or restlessness may grow. Talents may remain undeveloped, dreams unpursued, relationships superficial, and meaning obscured. Time passes, and the quiet regret of unfulfilled potential can weigh heavily. The illusion is seductive precisely because it feels safe, but it is a false security. The real security comes from alignment with self, purpose, and values. Ultimately, breaking free requires a commitment to authenticity. It is a decision to live intentionally, to honor curiosity, to pursue growth, to confront fear, and to step beyond comfort zones. Authentic living may be uncomfortable, unpredictable, and challenging, yet it is deeply fulfilling. It reconnects you with your innate potential, ignites your passions, and transforms life from a routine into a journey of discovery. Each choice, each risk, each act of courage diminishes the illusion of being on track and replaces it with genuine alignment with self. Recognizing the subtle ways in which fear and comfort zones shape behavior allows us to reclaim our lives. Awareness illuminates the patterns of avoidance, external validation, and stagnation. Courage enables action beyond those patterns. Patience and persistence nurture growth over time. Support and community provide reinforcement and encouragement. Reflection maintains alignment and course correction. Failure becomes a teacher rather than a threat. And above all, commitment to authenticity transforms life from an illusion of progress into meaningful, purposeful advancement. Life will always present fear, uncertainty, and the comfort of familiar routines. These forces will never disappear, but they can be navigated consciously. By understanding their influence and choosing intentional action, You shift from being trapped in an illusion to moving in alignment with your deepest self. The illusion of being on track dissolves, replaced by the reality of purposeful, courageous, and authentic living. In that space, the soul flourishes, the mind clarifies, and the heart experiences the satisfaction of a life fully embraced. Solitude is often misunderstood. Many view it as loneliness, emptiness, or even failure, a condition to be avoided at all costs. Yet solitude, when embraced intentionally, is not a void but a space, a fertile, sacred space in which the self can breathe, grow, and awaken. In a world dominated by constant noise, external demands, and relentless social stimulation, solitude becomes a rare and precious gift. It is in these moments of intentional aloneness that the mind can quiet, the heart can speak, and clarity can emerge. The capacity to sit with oneself uninterrupted and unfiltered is not only a skill, but a vital practice for understanding who we truly are and what we truly desire. The first aspect of embracing solitude is understanding its distinction from loneliness. Loneliness is a sense of isolation, a feeling of lack, a yearning for connection that is absent. Solitude, by contrast, is chosen. It is not defined by absence, but by presence, the presence of your own mind, heart, and spirit. Solitude offers a mirror in which you can see yourself without distortion. It is not about escaping the world. It is about reconnecting with your inner world, cultivating awareness, and finding alignment between your inner life and your external actions. The practice of solitude invites you to stop, to pause, and to listen not to distractions, not to opinions, not to the ceaseless demands of the external world, but to the quiet, subtle voice of your authentic self. One of the most profound benefits of solitude is self-reflection. In the constant swirl of daily life, there is rarely a moment to examine one's own thoughts, emotions, and intentions. We move from task to task, obligation to obligation, often without asking the deeper questions: who am I becoming? Am I living according to my values? Are my actions aligned with my purpose? Solitude creates the space necessary for these questions to surface. It allows us to step outside the patterns of our routines, to observe our behaviors and choices with honesty, and to recognize where we have drifted or where we have compromised our true selves. Solitude also fosters clarity. When we are surrounded by noise, social media, conversations, responsibilities, expectations, our perceptions become clouded. We are bombarded with opinions, judgments, and comparisons that can distort our sense of direction. Solitude acts like a lens, focusing our attention inward, filtering out distractions, and allowing us to see our lives with greater precision. In solitude, we can discern what is essential from what is trivial, what resonates with our values from what merely satisfies social expectation, and what brings fulfillment from what only brings temporary satisfaction. Clarity is rarely born in chaos. It emerges in quiet spaces where the mind is free to explore without interference. The practice of solitude is not always comfortable. In fact, discomfort is often the signal that growth is occurring. When left alone with ourselves, we confront aspects of our character, fears, and desires that we might otherwise avoid. We face unresolved emotions, suppressed thoughts, and unexamined patterns. These confrontations can feel threatening at first because they force honesty, yet it is through this honesty that transformation occurs. Solitude is a training ground for courage, the courage to face our truth, the courage to examine our motivations, the courage to question our assumptions, and the courage to take responsibility for our lives. Another dimension of solitude is creativity. The mind, when unburdened by external distraction, begins to generate ideas, insights, and solutions that were previously inaccessible. Great artists, thinkers, and innovators throughout history have attested to the power of solitude in unlocking creativity. When the external world is silent, the inner world becomes rich and expansive. Thoughts connect in unexpected ways, inspiration surfaces from hidden depths, and the imagination flourishes. Solitude is not merely an absence of external input. It is the presence of internal possibility. Embracing solitude also deepens emotional intelligence. When we are alone, we are forced to listen to our emotions rather than suppress or ignore them. We learn to identify, understand, and process feelings that might otherwise be projected onto others or masked by distraction. This emotional literacy strengthens relationships, improves decision-making, and cultivates empathy. In solitude, we practice being fully present with our inner experiences, which in turn allows us to be fully present with others. The spiritual dimension of solitude cannot be overlooked. Across cultures and traditions, retreating into solitude has been recognized as a path to enlightenment, self-realization, and inner peace. Whether through meditation, prayer, walking in nature, or quiet contemplation, solitude allows us to connect with something larger than ourselves, a sense of purpose, meaning, or universal consciousness. Spiritual growth is rarely achieved in constant business. It requires moments of stillness in which the soul can speak. Solitude becomes a sacred space where we can explore questions of meaning, destiny, and our place in the world. Practical application of solitude involves intentionality. It is not enough to simply find oneself alone, one must use the time consciously. This can take many forms: journaling to examine thoughts and emotions, meditating to quiet the mind, walking in nature to reconnect with simplicity, or engaging in creative pursuits without external expectations. Even brief periods of intentional solitude each day can create cumulative effects, gradually strengthening self-awareness, focus, and clarity. The key is consistency and a willingness to face the discomfort that accompanies stillness. Modern society often discourages solitude. Technology ensures that we are always reachable, always entertained, and always distracted. Social norms equate business with productivity, engagement with worth, and external validation with success. Yet these pressures make solitude increasingly rare and increasingly valuable. Choosing to step away, even briefly, from constant stimulation is a radical act of self-care and self-respect. It signals that your inner life matters, that your thoughts and feelings deserve attention, and that your sense of purpose is worth cultivating. Solitude also fosters resilience. When we are comfortable being alone with ourselves, we become less dependent on external validation, approval, or distraction. We learn to trust our own judgment, navigate uncertainty, and face challenges without relying solely on others for reassurance. This independence strengthens confidence and self-reliance, allowing us to engage with the world from a place of groundedness rather than fear or neediness. Solitude does not isolate us from others. It prepares us to interact more authentically and intentionally. The journey of embracing solitude often begins with small steps. Perhaps it is a few minutes each day of quiet reflection, a solitary walk, or time spent journaling without distraction. Over time, these small acts accumulate, creating a rhythm of intentional presence. Eventually, solitude becomes a source of insight, inspiration, and inner stability. The discomfort that initially arises diminishes as the mind and heart learn to rest in stillness, to listen deeply, and to trust the wisdom that emerges when distractions fade. It is important to recognize that solitude does not mean disengagement from life or rejection of relationships. Rather, it is a preparation for deeper engagement. By understanding oneself, clarifying values, and cultivating presence, solitude enhances our capacity to connect meaningfully with others. Relationships, work, and creativity all benefit when they are approached from a place of self-awareness, groundedness, and authenticity. Solitude is not an escape. It is a tool for more intentional living. Reflection within solitude often leads to action. Awareness of one's true desires, values, and priorities naturally prompts choices that align with authenticity. Decisions become less reactive and more deliberate. Goals are chosen with intention rather than default. Challenges are approached with clarity rather than confusion. In this way, solitude is not passive, it is a catalyst for purposeful action, the bridge between self-awareness and meaningful living. Finally, embracing solitude fosters a profound sense of peace. When we are no longer dependent on external validation, constant stimulation, or the approval of others, the mind can rest. Anxiety diminishes, focus sharpens, and contentment emerges from within. Peace is not found in the absence of challenges, but in the presence of alignment between thought, feeling, action, and purpose. Solitude cultivates this alignment, offering a sanctuary in which the self can breathe, reflect, and grow. In conclusion, embracing solitude is one of the most transformative practices for anyone seeking clarity, self-understanding, and authentic living. It is a deliberate choice to step away from noise, distraction, and external pressures in order to listen deeply to oneself. Through solitude, we gain insight, foster creativity, develop emotional intelligence, connect spiritually, strengthen resilience, and cultivate peace. It is not an escape from life, but a deeper engagement with it. A conscious act of alignment, growth, and self-discovery. Solitude, when embraced fully, becomes a mirror, a teacher, and a sanctuary. It allows us to face our fears, understand our desires, clarify our values, and align our actions with our deepest self. In a world that prizes business, connectivity, and distraction, the courage to be alone with oneself is an act of rebellion, wisdom, and liberation. Through the practice of solitude, we learn that clarity, purpose, and peace are not found in the external world, but within the quiet, attentive, and courageous space of our own hearts and minds.